We got an interesting AFC North battle up next. Two teams that have got some fairly serious ambitions for postseason football this year. We'll start on the Cincinnati side of the ball. Joe Burrow, are you comfortable playing him given the question marks over that potential calf?
I think so. I don't think that the Bengals are stupid enough that they'd be starting him if there were any questions about him. The question, I think, if you're looking at fantasy rosters and you drafted Joe Burrow, you have to be comfortable putting him out there right now, unless you've got an incredibly good backup option. In single QB formats, there's nobody that I'd probably push ahead of him. If you've taken one QB at round 4 or 5, where you were probably taking Joe Burrow, I'm not sure how early you would have had to take in your second quarterback where you'd feel confident starting them. Maybe if you had Anthony Richardson, you could possibly say that. In terms of everywhere else, I think you're just starting Joe Burrow. You just have to trust that the coaches are confident he's going to be healthy. In terms of in DraftKings, he's 7,100, and the difficulty there is that you're talking about he's more expensive than Justin Herbert, who's 6,900, who probably has a more fantasy points viable matchup. He's also substantially more expensive than a lot of budget quarterbacks who we'll talk about tonight. So that gets very difficult. In terms of the rest of the Bengals, so, you start Jamar Chase, you start T. Higgins. We swerve the earth because we know that he's not a good player, despite what some of our comments on YouTube are saying. The running game is the matchup here that really stands out to me because Joe Mixon at 6,800, they lost Samaje Perine. He went to the Broncos when they offered him an identical contract to what the Bengals offered him. He really played at points last season, so they need someone to stand up, but it hasn't sounded like it's going to be anyone. Earlier on in the offseason, it was Trayvon Williams. Then it was Chris Evans for a point. And then, of course, is the rookie, Chase Brown. So none of them have stood up. Nick Chubb on his side of the ball. I love playing Nick Chubb on DraftKings because you get the 100-yard bonus when he goes over 100 yards. It's worth 3 points. Last year, he rushed for 80 or more yards in 12 of his 16 appearances. This year, though, there's the chance that he's going to really add to his receiving game. Last year, he only averaged 1.3 receptions per game. It feels so easy to project him for over 2, possibly closer to 3 per game. And if that happens, he could just break slates left, right, and center.
Yeah, it feels like this could be a bit of a ground and pound game. If Joe Burrow's not 100%, I think the Cleveland defense, they've improved that interior defensive line, but it's still unproven. They were horrendous against the run last year. And I do wonder if we see this game not necessarily be a game that's played in the air much, and we see Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb carry the ball an awful lot, and it could be a relatively low-scoring affair, but those running backs are still able to feast. And yeah, I love both of them in this matchup. They're both top eight backs for me in terms of starting this week, and I'm certainly very excited about them.
If you were going to take a dart throw on either of Donovan Peoples-Jones or Elijah Moore, is the one you'd feel more confident in? Because Elijah Moore, he's priced all the way down this week. You can get him for, I think it's like 3,800. DPJ is at 4,300, but obviously we saw him last year in the role that he kind of had. Do you feel confident enough in Elijah Moore that you could roll him out in week 1 in any kind of format?
I think for me, this is perhaps where my DFS naivety comes in. For me, if I'm in a dicey league, in a redraft league, it's Elijah Moore because I can bank on that more reliable production. I think he's going to see a significantly higher target volume. But we know that DPJ is that X outside deep threat. We know that he could take 2 catches and have a really good DFS week in terms of he could take 2 catches, 80 yards and a touchdown, and that's a really impressive production based on his price. So yeah, I think if I'm searching for that home run, it's probably DPJ. But if I'm just looking for 5 catches for 50 yards, then it's going to be Elijah Moore, isn't it?